What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have an album review for you. So another one that came out on the week of the 23rd that I kind of wanted to go over, even though I heard one track and I kind of knew what I was going to go over, but I still wanted to do it, was the latest offering from Mental Cruelty, Zwielicht. This again also comes out on the 23rd of June on Century Media Records. This band used to be on Unique Leader as well. Formed in 2014 in Germany, this is their fourth full-length overall, and this is also their first one with new vocalist Lucas Nicolai. And honestly, I've only listened to this band in passing. I know their earlier stuff was more along the lines of like brutal deathcore, like kind of like bands like Ingested and Slaughter to Prevail. And I'm honestly not the biggest Slaughter to Prevail fan at all. And from what I gathered, there were a lot of comments out there about this band essentially dick riding that band. Again, I haven't listened to enough of their earlier stuff to say if that holds any weight, but I've listened to this album, and I would say that they have moved on to a different dick to ride, and that dick is most definitely Lorna Shore's. This is quite possibly the most transparent, shameless Lorna Shore dick riding that I have heard yet. They have moved full on to symphonic deathcore, or whatever you want to call this style, and they even doubled down and got the same producer that did Pain Remains, Josh Schroeder. And, well, it sounds like Pain Remains. It sounds like Lorna Shore. If I was just doing a short take, that would be it. I could end it right there, and there would be nothing else to talk about, but this is a review, so I kind of have to go into this more, but know full well that I'm going to be bringing up Lorna Shore a lot. So right away, this album opens up with an intro, Midwinter, and it sounds like the title card to a fucking, PlayStation 3 RPG game. It's epic, and there's lots of symphonic elements, of course. I mean, granted, they're all like digital, and I suppose they did their best to make it sound as real as possible with the French horns and strings, and nope, it sounds pretty fake. But that goes right into Absensus a Demonio. I think that's how you say that. And yeah, it is right into that Lorna Shore sound, again, right down to the production, though I think the production is maybe held back a little bit this time. Like, it is not as like gasoline lit as Pain Remains, where everything is just obscenely loud and, just a real clusterfuck of a production. This one, I feel like some of the gas has been let off, and while I still don't like it because like the drums sound super artificial, and again, a lot of stuff gets buried in all the layers on here, it's a little bit more listenable overall. But this song pretty much encapsulates a lot of what you are going to hear on this album. Big swells of like blackened riffs and, symphonic elements behind it. Vocals, Lucas Nicolai does a really good job. He's kind of close to the level of Will Ramos. As much as I didn't like Pain Remains, I gotta give it to that kid for his intense vocal range, and Lucas does a pretty good job in here. There's big swells of epicness and growls and pig snorts, and then, of course, like right away, the thing that I really didn't like on Pain Remains is just an ill-timed, dumb breakdown that gets shoehorned in, and that is on so many of these tracks. Forgotten Kings, Mortal Shells, Symphony of a Dying Star, Pest. Yeah, all of those songs just kind of, try to find a way to shoehorn in a big breakdown, big open chord chugs. They even slow it down. The vocals get more disgusting and snorty and gross. And again, I like breakdowns, but when it comes down to songwriting, how these guys, and to an extent Lorna Shore, do this is they just kind of get copy and pasted in there. Like, often they really don't like transition very well into and out of these breakdowns. They just kind of come in, kick down the door, fucking puke snot everywhere, and leave. And that formula is repeated because that was one of the main draws for Lorna Shore, and let's be honest, this band is kind of capitalizing on it. Now, to be honest, in terms of a comparison between the two, because we're going to do that a lot, I would say that Mental Cruelty embraces black metal a little bit better than maybe Lorna Shore does. Lorna Shore kind of repeated a lot of the same riffs, and they kind of came off as more like melodeath, and like the, symphonic elements were the things that were really keeping it more black metal in spots. Like, of course, you had the big swells of atmospheric tremolo riffs, but there are some more black metal riffs in here. Forgotten Kings, the opening of that song, I think is really nice. Like, it's a mid-tempo stomp. There's really cold riffs. The symphonic elements are dialed back a little bit, and Lucas's vocals are pretty solid on there. Like, he has a good black metal scream, but inevitably the song kind of shits itself and kind of goes to the well of blast beats, and the same epic tremolo riffs and symphonic elements that you will hear all over this album. When this band is in its epic gear, it is kind of rinse and repeat. It's the same ascending riffs and tremolos, just with like different symphonic breaks, or maybe like a different lead melody, or something like that behind it. Maybe you'll get a solo in there, which honestly the solos really aren't bad in here. They're actually pretty solid. But it's the same. And another big issue with this album that I had is it's just shy of 50 minutes, and the bloat is fucking felt. Songs like Pest, Mortal Shells, and the last track, A Tale of Salt and Light, feel like they could end at any given point in the song, because they like to go to this big epic swell. Like, it makes it sound like a big crescendo, and some of these will come at like the 3.5 minute mark. You're like, oh, okay, that seems like a good place to end this. Not just because I don't want to listen to it anymore, but no, this seems like kind of a logical conclusion, and then everything will drop out and they'll go into a big stupid breakdown or some shit like that, or they'll just build back. Like, they'll drop out everything except for symphonic elements or maybe some clean playing, and then build it back into kind of the same shit you were listening to earlier in the album. Even the breakdowns feel like they are drawn out. You'll get the initial breakdown, comes in heavy and just massive sounding, and again, like just puked vocals everywhere. And then they'll slow it down, because that's what Lorna Shore did. A lot of the stuff on here feels very drawn out and kind of needlessly, because it's just sort of backtracking and kind of re-exploring territory they've already hit. These songs don't necessarily progress very often. Probably my biggest standout on here was the song Nordlies, namely because A, it doesn't have a big stupid breakdown, and honestly, I think it's the best songwriting on the album. Builds in with a really cool acoustic melody into their, blackened deathcore. The riffs are very icy cold. I mean, there's a lot of those in here, but here they actually seem to work better, and they keep this acoustic melody kind of playing in the background. There's really good sections of groove on there where it's not just a syncopated breakdown, like it's actually more riff driven, and it's not, again, like an open chord chug. Like, there's a riff with a serious hook in there. Granted, sometimes these riffs get buried by a lot of symphonic elements. It is actually like a pretty solid hook on there, and the song has a cool breakdown, but it's a riffy breakdown. Again, it's not the open chord chuggy, snorty Lorna Shore one. Like, this one actually has like a melody, a hook, and it's still pummeling and heavier than fuck. There's even some folky elements that come in here, and they're used all right. The title track is essentially an interlude / transitional track. It is pretty much just bare vocals with, auto-tuned vocal harmonies behind it. It's honestly not bad. There's like some folky guitar playing, some light percussion, and it builds up pretty well, but when it comes down to the track change, when it gets to Symphony of a Dying Star, the next track, it's a little wonky, but they do employ a lot of folky melodies in that song as well, like kind of like channeling a little bit of Kalma in there, albeit with, big stupid fucking breakdowns peppered in there just for effect, which kind of took me out of it. Again, there are ideas in here that I think are good, but they're never fully fleshed out. Instead, they kind of just go to the symphonic deathcore well that fucking Lorna Shore lives in and just keep fishing ideas out of it, which end up sounding the fucking same, because, again, it goes back to, just the standard stuff that is all over here. And again, for a nearly 50-minute album, there is so much rinse and repeat on here. And again, when they do get outside of, the usual shit, they kind of don't do much with it. The Arrogance of Agony actually has some really cool, like, cleaner moments. It's a little bit more subdued. It's not just foot on the gas, blast beats the entire time. There's some really cool drum patterns on it, and again, really cool, clean playing. But at the same time, the vocalist, where I think he does really well on this, he chooses to go with the more harsh vocals instead of maybe doing something that would complement the atmosphere. And that kind of illustrates another issue here is I feel like this band is still kind of battling with their old sound and their new sound, like kind of a battle of arguably borrowed identities. And that kind of makes this album a little disjointed and messy too, just in terms of like transitions and hanging on to parts way too long. It's a kind of a chore of a listen. By the time I got down to the last track, A Tale of Salt and Light, which is the longest track on here at over 7 minutes, I was really, really ready for this album to end. Especially considering the fact that every song dynamic that you have heard on this entire album is on this song, albeit longer. Yeah, it's not like the grand closer I think you would really want, because it just does, again, everything else that they've done on here except made it longer, and making these songs longer is really unnecessary because the songwriting is just kind of mediocre, honestly. Like, it's a lot of repeated tricks and a lot of possibly relying on the production to make it sound more grand and epic. But even a multitude of production tricks and elements and, you know, things to make you sound more grand and big is not going to cover up the fact that the songs themselves at their core, haha, are kind of dull. Even with all the giant crescendo fucking overload on here when it comes down to the epic melodies, yeah, if you do epic like the entire fucking time, then nothing is epic. That's pretty much Shred's words there, except I probably threw in more fucks. So yeah, no surprise, I wasn't a fan of this. I wasn't a fan of Pain Remains, and this is kind of that slightly different, but not really. So overall, I'm gonna give this 2 stars. It's the same score I gave Pain Remains, and yeah, this is Pain also remains, except, you know, in German. It's Lorna Schnitzel. There are some things this band does a little bit differently, like the folky elements and having a little bit more black metal to their sound, and maybe, you know, having the production slightly tweaked or at least kind of drawn back a little bit from, you know, the fucking production wreck that Pain Remains was. But overall, it is really hard to look past the shameless dick writing that this album is. And to that extent, if you weren't a fan of Pain Remains at all, you're probably not going to be a fan of this either. Some of these songs have cool parts, and some of this had some real potential to it, but ultimately they just kind of stuck with copying Lorna Shore's homework and, you know, hopefully capturing the same level of success. Again, if you like symphonic deathcore, and I mean, like Shadow of Intent, I guess could be thrown in there. I think they're a lot better. And of course, if you like Lorna Shore, namely Pain Remains, you'll probably dig this. If you don't, I don't think this will win you over, but still give it a chance. Check these guys out. If you love them, support the living fuck out of them. But yeah, this definitely wasn't for me. So if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there, as well as our store, which we will eventually be loading up on shirts. Once we get them, we will definitely do a video showing them off, and probably not long after that, we'll do a giveaway for one of them too. But as far as giveaways, we still have our 15K subscriber giveaway going on. We are less than 70 away from the 15K mark, so if you have not gotten in on that, all you have to do is comment on the video linked down below. It is also playing automatically on our channel. Once we hit the mark, I will do a little announcement video after I do a little comment randomizer, and one of you lucky metalheads will get a stack of 11 CDs, and we will be at 15,000 subscribers. Again, constantly fucking blown away by our success because I know us. But regardless of the success, it has been a lot of fun. But we wouldn't have any of that success without you guys. Thank you for sticking with us, knowing full well that you could probably do a lot better, but again, we're glad you don't. So once again, thank you all, and we will catch you later.